You're listening to The Bible Guys, a podcast where a couple of friends talk about the Bible in fun and practical ways.
Hey everybody, welcome to The Bible Guys. It is Monday.
Everybody's favorite day. Everybody's favorite day.
In the 80s, we had this little cartoon called Garfield. Mm-hmm. And Garfield was famous for hating Mondays.
Hating Mondays.
He would have a little bubble that said, I hate Mondays.
He did. Yes, sir.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So there you go.
And it's why we loved Garfield.
Yes, because we all
He was so sensible.
And he loved lasagna.
And lasagna. Yeah, that's right.
That's right. He's a cat. So, hey, my name is Chris. This is Jeff. We want to welcome you to the Bible Guys. And we are starting off with a riveting segment.
This is super exciting.
Yeah, and it's called Would You Rather.
This is one of your favorites, right?
I love it.
Okay.
Because it's just fun choices, usually.
Well, since you love it so much, why don't you start, Chris?
Okay. Number one, would you rather have a pet dinosaur or a pet dragon? To which I would say, are they one and the same? Are dragons dinosaurs?
Well, I think Desiree knows what she's doing, and she's distinguished between the two.
I see. It depends on what kind of dinosaur. Geez.
Well, dinosaurs are real. There's that.
Yeah. Well, listen, I believe the dragons may have been real at one time.
Yeah, as a dinosaur.
As a dinosaur, yeah.
Okay.
So, but the point is...
Almost every ancient culture has some kind of a dragon story.
That's right.
Many of them do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I would definitely say dragon.
Dragon.
Yeah.
Well, I saw the cartoon.
What cartoon?
About how to train your pet dragon.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it looks way cooler than just... And I also saw Jurassic Park, and that's not super cool.
Right,
so,
right. One's death and destruction.
Yeah.
One's your friend.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You get to fly on.
Pet dragon. Yeah. Pet dragon.
Yeah.
Top notch right there.
Yeah, and I've also seen House of Dragons, where House of Dragons is a prerequisite to Game of Thrones.
Okay.
And they actually, were realistic dragons. And it sort of tried to create a world in which dragons were real, and that they were the dominant, group of people that rode them. And I got to tell you, riding dragons looks pretty cool.
Okay, well, there you go.
Yep.
I'm talking about a cartoon, but yeah, same thing.
Yes.
Thing.
Hey,
okay, here you go.
Toothless.
Would you rather wear clown makeup every day for the rest of your life?
Ooh, that's a no.
Or wear a tutu every day?
A tutu.
I think so too.
Yeah, it's terrible, but it's way better than clown makeup.
I just don't want to take the time.
No, I just don't want to have to my skin to bear.
Do you have a long routine for getting ready in the morning?
It depends on if I shave or not.
Okay.
Shaving takes a little bit of time, but if I don't shave, I'm ready in 15 minutes.
It's because your beard is just so strong and sturdy. You must go through multiple.
Did you know that Superman?
Blades?
Did you know that Superman has to use a mirror and uses heat vision to shave?
Oh.
Because a razor can't cut his hair.
Razor can't. Whoa.
Did
Tough
you
guy.
know that? Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I just don't want to take the time with the clown makeup. So put on the tutu. Be embarrassed. That's how I feel about it.
Got it.
Okay.
All right. Number 3.
I'd get like a Velcro tutu.
Oh, yeah.
Be done.
Well, if you got to wear it every day.
Yeah. It's like a belt.
Why not get the best tutu, Jeff?
Yeah, that's right.
The most convenient
only the finest tutus. Go to thebibleguys.com and go to our store.
Right. You too can get a Velcro tutu.
Okay.
Number 3. Would you rather fight 100 tiny sumo wrestlers or one giant toddler?
Oof. That
is hilarious.
Mm-hmm. How tiny is tiny and how giant is giant? I think that's the issue.
I think you should.
Is it a man-sized toddler?
No. Giant means giant.
Well, toddlers. Have you seen a toddler? They're usually like a foot tall.
I know.
So then, to be 6 feet tall would make you a giant. If you were 6 times bigger than you are now, you'd be a giant.
Yeah, but I'm picturing the false world.
You're thinking like mega. Mega toddler.
I'm thinking like,
oh, yeah.
Yeah, toddler. And then I think...
how tiny is a tiny sumo wrestler?
I think they're maybe like dwarfs.
Okay. So, like a 3 foot tall, 100 3 foot tall sumo wrestlers.
Right.
So a sumo wrestler usually weighs like 400 pounds.
Right.
So if you take a 6 foot sumo wrestler at 400 pounds and you shrink it to 300 or to 3 feet,
it's 200
that's a 200 pound. You're fighting 100 200 pounders
Yeah, I'd rather fight the
versus
dwarf or the giant.
The giant, yeah, just one giant. Yeah, we worked it out. You see?
Yeah,
good problem solving right there.
Yeah,
what were you gonna say? You were gonna say 100 tiny sumo wrestlers.
In my mind, I was also thinking, like, could they be like the size of Tinkerbell?
Like micro.
Right.
Yeah.
Then
See,
you just fly swat them.
See, that's what I was asking. Is this micro and mega, or is this little and big?
I think the giant toddler wins.
Oh, giant toddler. Yeah.
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 Go ahead.
Because you only have one problem.
Right.
Instead of 100 problems.
Right.
100, 200-pound problems. Okay. Good. Would you rather sneeze glitter or sweat maple syrup?
There is no question in my mind.
Yep. Sweat maple syrup, baby.
Sweat maple syrup.
Absolutely.
First of all, thanks for the questions, Desiree. These are awful. That was terrible.
Well, hey.
Both of those I just want to gag at.
Yeah.
But there's the glitters from the pits of hell.
That's right. That's right. I whoever invented glitter,
Yes.
I'm confident is not in heaven.
Yes, that's correct.
Right?
Yes.
Along with, I think, the other declaration we've made. I mean, hey, we are a hard-hitting
Go
Bible
Buckeyes.
show. Right?
Go
No. We are a
Buckeyes.
hard-hitting Bible doctrine show, and we took a strong stand against Android phones.
Oh, we sure
and
did.
Android users
Yeah,
a
we
few
sure
weeks ago.
did. That's
yeah, right.
I thought you were going to say
we don't pull any punches.
I thought you were going to make an Ohio State joke.
No, and so we're pretty sure they're not going to go to heaven.
No, they're not.
And then now, whoever invented glitter,
Yes.
and people who use glitter.
Right.
If you are in the glitter industry,
Yes. Or
if you're a glitter pusher,
or if you're a glitter fan, a glitter pusher, that's hilarious.
yeah, okay, I would agree with you on the maple syrup.
Although
Okay,
that's gross, but at least it would smell good.
that's right. Okay, I think it's you again.
Ugh. Number 5, would you rather always have a bad case of the hiccups? Oh, that's terrible. Or have an itch that you can't reach?
Oof.
That's pretty bad too. Those are two terrible options.
It's a bad case of hiccups, not just hiccups.
Well, bad case of the hiccups that you always have, that could define the bad.
Mm-hmm.
Bad case doesn't have to mean like strength. It could mean like length.
Yeah. I think I would rather have the itch.
I think so too.
I would just hire somebody. Follow me around. Your job, you're the itcher. You're the scratcher.
You're the scratcher.
Yeah. Because
Because it doesn't say that you can't scratch it. It just says you can't reach it.
you can't reach it.
Which, by the way, I can pretty much reach everywhere. Side
All right.
note.
Yeah, we're gonna. Okay, that's the best as far as we want to go with that one. I think.
Yeah, I think so too. It's like you'd have to be like. Does it mean you're a like a quadriplegic or?
Yeah. Well, speaking of not being able to see everything, today's episode, Elisha's servant cannot see all the protection around him.
Wow.
Huh?
But here's the question.
Huh?
When did we speak of not being able to see anything?
You just did. Well, you couldn't reach it. And if you can't reach it, you can't see it.
That was the connection? You effectively done a bad transition.
Bad transition.
Yes.
Man, I think we're about 500 for 500 now on this one.
Yes, I think so too.
So we are in 2 Kings chapter 6 today, and this is one of my favorite stories, I think, in Elisha's life.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. He already had some pretty good ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As opposed to all those bad Bible verses, these are some of our favorite ones. These are the good ones.
Jeff, why do you insert such things on people?
Well, I didn't.
That's not what I said.
I know. I didn't say you said that.
Yeah.
So I was just commenting. 2 Kings chapter 6 verse 8 says,
Sure you
when
were.
when the king of Aram was at war with Israel, he would confer with his officers and say, "We will mobilize our forces at such and such a place." But immediately Elisha, the man of God, would warn the king of Israel, "Don't go near that place, for the Arameans are planning to mobilize their troops there." So the king of Israel would send word to the place indicated by the man of God. Time and again, Elisha warned the king so that he would be on the alert there. The king of Aram became very upset over this, and he called his officers together and demanded, "Which of you is the traitor? Who's been informing the king of Israel of my plans?" "It's not us, my lord the king," one of the officers replied. "Elisha, the prophet in Israel, tells the king of Israel even the words you speak in the privacy of your bedroom." "Go and find out where he is," the king commanded, "so I can send troops to seize him." And the report came back, "Elisha is at Dothan." So one night, the king of Aram sent a great army with many chariots and horses to surround the city. When the servant of the man of God got up early the next morning and went outside, there were troops, horses, and chariots everywhere. "Oh, sir, what will we do now?" the young man cried to Elisha. Don't be afraid, Elisha told him, for there are more on our side than on theirs. Then Elisha prayed, O Lord, open his eyes and let him see. The Lord opened the young man's eyes, and when he looked up, he saw that the hillside around Elisha was filled with horses and chariots of fire. As the Aramean army advanced toward him, Elisha prayed, O Lord, please make them blind. So the Lord struck them with blindness as Elisha had asked. Then Elisha went out and told them, You have come the wrong way. This isn't the right city. Follow me, and I'll take you to the man you're looking for. And he led them to the city of Samaria. As soon as they had entered Samaria, Elisha prayed, O Lord, now open their eyes and let them see. So the Lord opened their eyes, and they discovered that they were in the middle of Samaria. When the king of Israel saw them, he shouted to Elisha, My father, should I kill them? Should I kill them? Of course not, Elisha replied. Do we kill prisoners of war? Give them food and drink and send them home again to their master. So the king made a great feast for them and then sent them home to their master. After that, the Aramean raiders stayed away from the land of Israel. Yeah, no lie. I think I probably would too.
Yeah. That first of all, this brings up so many different questions.
Okay. Ask him, Chris.
Okay. So the
You're with a
question
Bible
is,
guy. No worries.
No worries.
No worries.
You've got this.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
So the question is, was Elisha able to see all of the horses of, chariots of fire? Was he able to see the spiritual world? Mm-hmm. And then he asked the Lord to open his servant's eyes so that he could see the spiritual world. Mm-hmm. So Elisha walks around seeing the spiritual world, or did he walk out of his house, see the army, and then God just allowed Elisha in that moment to see the spiritual world? Or does Elisha perpetually see the spiritual world? And then here's the third question. Yes. Here's the third option, because this is possible. Mm-hmm. Elisha just assumes that there's a spiritual world.
Well, using your test yesterday about don't say things that aren't there.
Correct.
It never implies that Elisha can see anything.
Correct.
Which would mean then your last question is the correct question to be asking.
But it doesn't say that he can't see.
Yeah, but you said don't add anything to it.
Correct.
So the only thing that we know is that Elisha's servant can see.
Right.
But Elisha had confidence.
What I'm saying is, it doesn't tell us all three of those options. So the only thing we know for sure is that it just doesn't tell us it could be any one of those three options.
Yes. But I think the assumption would be, because it doesn't say the other two, the natural assumption would be that he lives like you and I do. Yeah. Otherwise, you're turning him into a superhero.
Right. Yeah. I think I agree with that. Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah. So I think it was just that he had absolute confidence that, God's with us, and so we don't have to worry.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so too. Mm-hmm. And by the way, can we just talk about that for a minute?
Let's do it.
When you walk around with so much confidence that God is real and that God is on your side. Now, in a lot of cases, now Elisha was a prophet of God. That is different than my profession and your profession. So even though we're pastors and even though that, Christians are, ambassadors, all of us are, right? It's different than a prophet. A prophet had this ability to, directly hear from God. And so Elisha has, it seems like it's Elisha's idea. Mm-hmm. I have an idea. Make him blind, God. Yeah. And by the way, I think that was Elisha's idea. I think God honored Elisha's idea because it said he made them blind as Elisha asked.
Yes.
This didn't seem like an idea that came from God, right?
Right.
But again, he was the prophet. He was the representative, the only representative, at least apparently at this point. So anyway, all that to say this, for the average person listening, going into work, it doesn't necessarily mean, your ideas are always the best ideas. Like, this is what God says. God says,
right.
God says that you're going to try to punch me and your fist will stop in midair, right? Like that's right. That's not what it means, right? However, if you know that something is wrong and you stand up and do what is right, I believe that we can have confidence that God is going to be with you and that God is going to take care of you. And sometimes they do have consequences. Sometimes, whatever. Sometimes we don't see it work out. I'm just trying to think of different scenarios, right? So like, in other words, if a person quits a job because they stand up for what is right and they refuse to do what is wrong, okay? They may go through a hard time financially, but I believe that God will, in the end, take care of that person for doing what is right.
Yeah, God's never going to be in debt to you because you did the right thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, God will always settle the score, and it always winds up being better than what you think you invested in doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was sort of rambling, but what I'm trying to say is to have that amount of confidence to do what is right is sort of what I was saying, right? Can you imagine just to have every situation be like, oh, I know I'm on the right side. I know God's going to win. I know God's going to take care of me. I have no reservation whatsoever about, and by the way, I live that way often. Yeah. But I wonder how confident I would be if I knew that there's a potential I would die. Because I already told you, right? Like, remember that time I told you about that car wreck, and I was I wanted to run over and help the guy, but I was standing across the street. Sure, yeah. I was like a coward, right? And I'm thinking, gee whiz, man, if I knew I was going to die, would I have that much confidence? Oh yeah, God's with me right now. Right. He's going to take care of me right now.
I think, it's interesting to me that Elisha spends the vast majority of his time in Israel and not in Judah. Judah is where all the people who followed God were. Yeah. And he had great respect for Jehoshaphat.
Yeah, he said so.
He says it multiple times. He's like, big fan of that guy, right? But he lives in Samaria where all the wicked people are, where all the sin is. And he's not indulging in it. He's constantly, speaking against all of this evil. And I think this was an opportunity, and he saw this as an opportunity to continue to move God's mission forward, right? And God saw this as an opportunity to move his mission forward, to get in the mind and the eyes of the king of Israel again. Look, I'm still paying attention. I'm here, right? How many miracles do you need before you finally start believing? So what it turns out, I think you're seeing here, is that the king of Israel looks at Elisha as a magic man, like a witch doctor or something. That he just has this built-in magic in him. He's not seeing that God is doing these miracles, apparently. I don't understand why he doesn't respond. Sometimes he'll mention, in a previous one where he mentioned, your God said this or whatever. But for the most part, he just doesn't have the same perspective. But I do think that God is getting this message across. And so in this moment, then, Elisha can have confidence. One, I don't believe God's done with me yet. And two, this is a really great opportunity to point out to the king again. And that's why, hey, God, strike him blind, and I'm going to march him right into the middle of the city, right? And, hey, see what God did? And so when it's all about see what God did, I think you can expect miracles. When it's just everyday stuff, maybe or maybe not. And it just depends on what God's plan is for your life in that next thing, right? So when your work is aligning with God's plan, I think you can always count on miracles. When it's just Tuesday on the way to the grocery store, I don't know. Right? I think we live the majority of our life just in the natural world. Right. And natural things happen, good and bad. And then when we are moving God's kingdom forward, it's not unreasonable for us to expect God to do the supernatural and protect us. And there's been many times where I found myself, we do a lot of work around the world. There's been multiple times where one time we were out in the bush and we rolled up on a group of guys that were not happy that we pulled up. They all had machetes in their hands. And I'm thinking, this is kind of scary, right? Yep. It calmed down and things were fine. I had another time we were on motorcycles riding through the bush, and we were right on the border between two warring tribes. And these guys step out with rifles and stop us in the middle of nowhere. And they commandeered our motorcycles and rode with us for 2 hours. I had a guy sitting on the back of my motorcycle with his machine gun right between me and him on my back. Wow. Right? And we didn't know if we were being kidnapped or not. We didn't know which tribe they were from. We didn't know anything about them. And we sat down and had a meal once we got to where we were going. We had a meal with them. They sat around and chit-chatted with us for a couple minutes. And then as dark came, we set up our tents and they just kind of disappeared into the bush. I don't know if they were good guys or bad guys. Never figured it out. Wow. I've had times where religious radicals in the Middle East took possession of us and wondering, how's this going to work out? Had a lot of those things. And in those, there's the nervousness of it, but always the confidence that God's got this one, right? I think I've been more worried that, this might not turn out well, like you said, driving down the road having a bad problem than, than in those. Because in those moments, I'm thinking, hey, I'm just doing what God told us to do. We're trying to plant churches. We're trying to make disciples. He'll protect us. Right. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Well, I think that looking back at my life, when I was a kid, I did a lot of crazy and dumb things, and was pretty ignorant of a lot of things, and almost died like probably 4 different times, maybe 5 different times. But
God had a plan for you.
I think
He's like, look at this dumb kid. I'm just going to keep him alive.
I actually believe like there are unexplainable things, and I think even as a kid, I'm thinking like somehow God protected me from that.
Yes.
I fell down 2 stories onto a cement driveway.
Yeah, I remember that.
I was 2 stories high. I fell off of a ladder. I went straight backwards and landed on my back and my head on a cement driveway.
That
with no
explains
protection.
a lot.
Right. LMPRZ. Yeah. And so, And so,
no, I believe that 100%. That when you get yourself in a situation, God's not done with you. You are heading towards God. This is what I'm saying. If you align your life where you're like, God, I'm going to do everything I can do to serve you. And it doesn't have to be full-time preacher ministry.
Yeah.
It's just that you're saying, as a businessman, God, I'm going to leverage my resources to further your kingdom. I'm going to share the gospel. You're saying, God, I want to align with your plan for my life. Then I think you can expect God's supernatural intervention in your life on a regular basis because God had a plan. You made some dumb choices.
Yep.
And your guardian angel's working hard, man, just sweating. Whew, this was a tough one. Yeah.
And
100%, I believe that. Every listener that's listening now, I think qualifies for that kind of protection.
I agree too.
Yeah.
I agree. And so let's spend our last few minutes talking about the spiritual world.
Yeah.
So we believe that the Bible teaches that there is a spiritual world, and that Adam and Eve had the ability to walk with God in the garden. That's what the Scripture says, right? And so Adam and Eve saw God in the spiritual world, and then when sin came into the world, the theology of it is that Adam and Eve were separated from that spiritual world, and so then now we live in a world where God is a spirit, and we can't see the spiritual world, but the Bible describes angels, the Bible describes demons. The Bible describes, that these two are completely in the same space, but at the same time, we can't see them. Which is why it says suddenly an angel appeared, right? And then it says everybody was terrified, right? And then in the book of Revelation, it talks about how the New Jerusalem will come down, and it'll merge with the earth. The new heaven and the new earth will come together, right? And so the theory is that the spiritual world will merge with the physical world. And it will be like it was in the Garden of Eden, where we can see the spiritual and the non-spiritual. Yeah. The physical and the spiritual.
That's right, because we have come alive spiritually.
Right.
It's not that those two they're not separate for God, they're separate for us.
Right.
And I don't think they're separate for the angels, they're separate for us. And that's why the angels show up, these armies come in and the angels are like, oh man. Now, what I think is really cool is it's talking about, this is a pretty substantial army that shows up. Many chariots and horses. And in those days, a few chariots would change an entire battle. Right? Because the other armies typically didn't have chariots. You rarely in this time frame ever hear about the Israelites having chariots. Right? So that's a tactical advantage in this moment. So there's many chariots, many horses. This is a substantial army. And then Elijah's like, yeah, Lord, if you could just let him see what you're planning. And there's this, for Elisha and his helper, there's a bigger army in heaven around. And so that phrase, and I just wish, not that I think we always have this this expectation that God's going to show us these things, but just the idea that this is true. There are more on our side than on theirs. Right? If you can just live your day, there's more on your side than there is on theirs. Your boss is wanting to do evil to you today. Just understand there's more on your side than there is on theirs.
That's really good.
Your in-laws or your ex or whatever. If you're following God and you're all in with Jesus on this one, you're surrendered to the Holy Spirit. The Bible says there's more on your side than there is on theirs. When you look at all the evil stuff going on in the schools and in our public arena and in politics and all those things, there's more on God's side than there is on theirs.
Right. Yeah. And the Scripture says in the New Testament, it says, "Greater is He that is in you than he that is in the world."
That's right.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's fantastic.
All right, well, that's a good place to end. That's right. It's a good place to end, and we will see you hopefully tomorrow on the Bible Guys.